Hey folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan from the golden age of wrestling. But I hope you all know that being wrestler, folks. Anyway, I got a special shout out for everybody out there to watch. Please watch Matthew Cox's tribute to Eddie Guerrero. That's right, it's a whole Eddie Guerrero tribute on the YouTube for Matthew Cox. And of course, it's going to have the Eddie Guerrero Forever and Always poem. And Matthew would love to get everybody's feedback. So after you watch it on YouTube, go ahead and give your feedback to Matthew Cox. He'd love to hear it because Eddie Guerrero was one of a kind. You know, Chavo Guerrero and I, Chavo Sr., and we went way back, and I knew Eddie when he was a young man. And we could see the progress he was making all the way through. And even worked with him down at WCW. So I got to see the guy really develop into the huge star that he became in WWE. Just left us all way too early. But anyway, folks, if you get a chance, make sure to check out the YouTube tribute to Eddie Guerrero. It's the Forever and Always poem. Check it out, Matthew Cox's YouTube channel. And this holds for everybody, Happy New Year! Ho!
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for your interest in Achimio, and thank you for keeping Eddie Guerrero's legacy alive. I did watch your poem on YouTube, loved it, thought it was very good, and I do have a memory of Eddie. It has to do with when he would wrestle tag team matches overseas. He would always be in the corner, or sometimes in the corner, holding the tag rope. And he worked this gimmick with, and I hate to put over Jimmy Corderas, but he did this very well all the time. And he would hold the tag rope. And he'd try to make the tag or something, but he would let go of the tag rope, move over into the middle of the ring a little bit, try to tag. Corderas wouldn't let him tag. He said he had to hold the rope. They would do this 3 or 4 times. Finally, Eddie would take the tag rope, undo it from the corner, slide it over to the middle of the rope, and make the tag there. Fans always popped on that. Eddie was a great entertainer. I always popped on that. I loved it, watching it. He would do it every night, especially when we were overseas. I remember that was the tour, one of the tours that he would do it, and it was very good. Eddie was a great friend, a great guy. I also have one of my prized possessions here, a little picture of when Eddie won the championship. I got it at a WrestleMania. I forgot who gave this to me, the office somebody, but a little piece of the canvas where Eddie wrestled and won the championship. But I just want to thank you, Matthew, for reaching out to me. It's great that you did the poem for Eddie. I enjoyed it again, highly enjoyed it, and look forward to hearing from you again. That is your Chimio for the day. Thank you.
Matthew Cox, thank you for reaching out on Cameo, and about this subject is incredible. Not only was Eddie Guerrero a great colleague, a great wrestler, but he was also a good friend of mine, and I appreciate you reaching out. And as you can tell, I have a lot of great and fond memories of Eddie Guerrero. I watched your video tribute to him on your YouTube channel. It was incredible, my friend. I can't put it into words because you captured the spirit and essence of Eddie Guerrero very well. I wish I could elaborate on it. I'm going to try because, like I said, not only was he a colleague of mine, not only was he a great wrestler, but he was a great friend. And as you can see by this autographed picture I don't have very many people. Eddie is one of the few I do. It says, Jimmy, thank you for your friendship and great ideas. Your friend, Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat. And that epitomizes everything. And, you know, as you see the WrestleMania 20 salute, this was us in Iraq for tribute to the troops. And a quick Eddie Guerrero story. One of the things Eddie Guerrero helped me with was for me to come out of my shell. Because as someone who was in the wrestling industry for a long time, I was very shy about presenting ideas and coming up with stuff and saying, hey guys, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? I would be refereeing an Eddie match and he'd be going through this lie, cheat, and steal phase that he was in. And he'd be talking over the match with his opponent, and then all of a sudden he'd look over at me and I'd have this look on my face. Says, what's going on, Jimmy? I said, what are you talking about? He says, I see a look there. I said, well, something just popped in my head. He says, well, tell me. I says, oh, you won't like it. He says, no, just tell me. So I present my idea. And one time he just said, you know what? I love that. We're going to do that. And I was like, oh, wow. He says, when you have an idea, don't be ashamed. Don't be shy. Present your idea. Be respectful. Don't like force yourself on it, but just say, hey guys, do you mind if I make a suggestion or something like that? And the other guys, he said, but with him, whenever I had anything, go to him and tell him. Anyways, again, thank you, Matthew, for reaching out. I can't say enough good things about Eddie Guerrero. He was such a great influence on me and my life, and I miss him dearly, and as you do as well, as many others do as well, to his friends, his family, and everyone. So, Matthew, take care. Happy New Year. Stay well and safe where you are. And again, thank you for reaching out.
Hey Matthew, what's up, buddy? It's Josh Matthews from Impact Wrestling. I just wanted to say thank you for this cameo request. And I understand that you're doing a tribute to the late, great Eddie Guerrero. I had the pleasure of knowing Eddie through much of his WWE career. And just talk about a guy who was so humble, so nice, so appreciative of everything and everybody behind the scenes in WWE, and just the kind of guy that you just wanted to be around. He was just a very nice guy, and he brought his young children around, and he had brought his wife Vicky around. This was well before she ever became an on-screen character, and he was a great family man, and just somebody that didn't have to be as nice as he was and as humble as he was. And I'll never forget the night that he and his friend Chris Benoit, they won the world titles together on the same night, and it was just an incredible night for both of them. So I have nothing but fond memories of Eddie Guerrero throughout his life, his career, and from a fan watching him in WCW to the Radicals coming to WWE and everything else that I saw from Eddie, and then meeting him, watching him do pre-tapes, watching him do interviews, watching him wrestle, everything he did was flawless and wonderful, and just a great man. So thank you for sending me this request and allowing me to relive some of those memories of being around Eddie and seeing everything that he did in his life. So hope you're well. Hope you have a great New Year. Thanks again for this cameo request. And we'll all remember the legacy that is Eddie Guerrero.
Matthew, un atangana for you, and this is Hugo Sabinovich. Just watched the video called Eddie Guerrero, the YouTube video, Eddie Guerrero Forever and Always. What a beautiful description, and the feelings you put there, importantly too, his relationship with Jesus, and that was one of the most memorable moments when I saw him hugged and just preach with love to Rey Mysterio, to David Bautista, and just seeing how he just looked at The Undertaker and said, my brother, with that laughter, said, Jesus loves you. And when you talk about in that poem about 2004 against a young Brock Lesnar, and the storyline goes as Goldberg comes in, hits Brock with a spear, and then we go into those moments of the people, just the Latino hit signs, and then finally Brock Lesnar stops him. We think that he's going to be beaten, and Eddie reverses in midair, and there goes the action. Eddie Guerrero, he has done it. He has reversed the move, and he hits Brock Lesnar hard with a DDT on top of the goal. And now Eddie Guerrero climbs to the top rope. Here we go, Latino Heat from the top rope. Hits the frog splash. La Sapito Plancha. 1, 2, 3. Tres. Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat, has just beaten Brock Lesnar. He has become the new WWE champion. Wow. And that was what in Spanish Carlos Cabrera and I did to bring the Latino fans around the world, the actions, the emotions, the passion, the perfection and execution of what Eddie Guerrero. He was so good. He will make Vince McMahon laugh when we saw him walking in the hallways of these big arenas. Even though Vince has 100 different ideas in his mind, Eddie will make him laugh, and he will make all of us laugh. And people like him, like Eddie Guerrero, physically they leave us, but spiritually they never do, because they're legends, they're icons. Forever Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat. Eddie Guerrero, numero uno, number one. Thank you, Matthew, for that video on YouTube. Atangana.
Hey Matthew, how's it going? This is your very favorite personal ring announcer, Ricardo Rodriguez. I wanted to first of all wish you a very happy new year. Let's hope that this year is a whole lot better than last year. I saw your poem, your page, and it's a very beautiful tribute, man. Like I think you touched a lot of bases on how a lot of us felt about Eddie Guerrero. I know for me as a Mexican American, a fellow Mexican American as Eddie. We shared so much pride in having him as a champion and having him represent the Latinos for so many years. And I know for myself, I was still just a kid when Eddie won the title, when he beat Brock Lesnar in California, and I cried, man. I jumped for joy because we finally had a Mexican champion. So it meant so much. You have no idea how much it meant. And much like all of his accomplishments that he had, we also, as a whole, as a Latinos, and I feel like not just Latinos, but as a whole community of wrestling fans, we all shed a tear when we got the news that Eddie had passed. I was very grateful and thankful to have worked with many of the Guerrero families, with Chavo and Vicky and even Shaw Guerrero. I was very thankful for that, very lucky for that. Yeah, man, it warms the heart. It really does warm the heart that you're doing something like this to continue to pay tribute to Eddie Guerrero, which I'm very, very thankful and grateful for that. So thank you for what you're doing, because that's seriously amazing. And much like anything else, just like there will never be another Rey, there will never be another Eddie Guerrero. There will never be another Rey Mysterio. There will never be another Eddie Guerrero. And I feel like it's gonna be he's like a once in a generation, or once in almost a lifetime kind of a superstar, where he had it all. He had the ability, the physical ability, the wrestling skills, the charisma, and it's rare. That's very rare in a lot of people, because for the most part you'll see that some folks are just on one side of those things, one of those things. So once again, thank you so much. Seriously, thank you so much for what you're doing, because that's seriously amazing. And then I'll continue to watch your videos. I subscribe to your page already. So thank you. And of course, Viva la Raza!
Hola Matthew, ¿cómo estás? I hope you okay. Let's keep the legacy of Eddie Guerrero. Y gracias, thank you very much for the tributo a Eddie Guerrero. Thank you, amigo. Tu amigo super crazy. Yeah.
I'd like to tell you about one of my favorite people of all time. I go back so far with the Guerrero family, back in the mid-'60s, when I first started in professional wrestling. I had the privilege of going to El Paso and working for Papa Guerrero, Gory Guerrero. I met the entire family at that time. And not only Guerreros, their entire family were such exceptional athletes and such great people that it's as the generations went down, all that greatness stayed with the family. I was so honored to meet them. But to make a long story short, Eddie Guerrero. Eddie was living in Tampa, Florida, or outside, actually Lutz, Florida, if you want to get right down to it. Him and Vicky were living about 6 miles from my house. So WWE assigned me to go over to Eddie Guerrero's house and do one of these short vignettes, one of these little 2-minute vignettes that you see on TV all the time. So I gladly went over, because like I said, I've been a good friend with Eddie, Chavo Classic, Chavo Jr., Hector, Mongo, all the Guerreros were all my friends. So I went over. Eddie had a pool table in the front yard, in the front room, so the living room. So we did our business, and on the way out, I threw a ball. He said, "Hey, you want to shoot a game?" And I said, "Hey, why not?" So we shot a game. I got really lucky, and I beat him. He got so mad, I beat him on his home table. He said, "You're not walking out of my house until we play again." So I said, "All right, we'll play 2 out of 3." So we got to come right down to the last shot. Eddie beat me. And I said, "Oh, okay, you win." He said, "No, we're playing two. I'm trying to leave. We're playing 2 out of 3. You're not going to walk out of my house without playing that third game." So once again, that competitive spirit. So we got down to the last ball. It was my shot. Damn, 8 ball was sitting right there in the corner. I had to do the gentlemanly thing. Well, should I? I'm going through my mind. Should I miss this shot on purpose? But if I miss it on purpose, and Eddie knows I'm missing it on purpose, he's going to get mad at me, and I'm going to have to play him again. Or should I make the damn thing? So competitive spirit goes through my mind. I'm an Okie, and he's a Texan. Hell, I'm going to beat his ass. So I shoot the damn hot ball as straight as I can. I sink that 8 ball. As soon as I sink that 8 ball, Eddie had probably been standing there thinking about what am I going to do. Okay, we're going to go 3 out of 5. I said, now it's getting late, but to myself, I can't do this. I got to go. But of course I agree. It's his home table. And so the next round, so we go. He wins. So it comes down to game 5. And it come down to game 5, Eddie's warmed up by now, and Eddie's making these shots, and man, he talking trash. You talk about a trash talker. He was a trash talker, especially on his home court. So, bottom line, to make a long story short, comes down, Eddie kicks my butt. And I said, okay, I threw the ball, congratulations, shake his hands. I think we had like a $20 bill bet on the series. I handed him this $20, and I'm walking out the door, and he's giving me grief. He's talking trash to me. This is just the competitive spirit of Eddie Guerrero. And as I get to my car, he walks me all the way to the car, and I get in my car, and as I'm getting in the car, I see something fly past me, and I look over in the seat. Hell, he threw that $20 bill. I don't want your damn money. I just wanted to beat your ass. So once again, that just shows the competitive spirit, but it also shows you what kind of man he was. He didn't want to take my money. He just wanted to beat me. And he bragged about it for weeks after that. So that's my story. And I sure appreciate you, Matthew, asking me my story about Eddie Guerrero, because I love the guy and respected the guy, and I miss him every day. But what a great guy he was! What a great family he came from. So thank you for the cameo shout out. Please give me a good review, or if you don't like it, give me a bad review. But just give me a review. Thank you, and have a great holiday and Happy New Year.
Hey Matthew, John Layfield here. John Bradshaw Layfield, JBL. However you know me, at one time the longest reigning WWE champion in SmackDown television history, here with the original title. The title that goes back in the traditional form, back to Bruno Sammartino. Cena changed it when he won it from me and put it into a spinner belt. That's what happens, over time. Things always change. But I was fortunate enough that Eddie Guerrero let me win this championship from him in Norfolk, Virginia. I want to thank you, Matthew, for allowing me to talk about Eddie Guerrero. So many stories that I've told. You asked for one that hasn't been told before. So many I've told because I love Eddie so much. He was like a brother to me. He was a groomsman in my wedding. He was, on his unfortunate death, I did part of the eulogy for his funeral. In fact, one of the coolest things ever happened to me was right before the funeral. His brothers were all there, Mondo and Chavo and Hector and his nephew Chavo. And he said, "Today you're a Guerrero." And I just always thought that was one of the coolest things anybody's ever said to me. That was I had such pride in those guys saying that. That was really cool. But Eddie and Chavo, his brother, were the ones that came up with the heart attack angle for his mother in El Paso on Mother's Day. That storyline, when we filmed it and that video got out, that's why we sold out the Staples Center. Set an attendance record there that night. It was 99% Latinos all wanted to see me die. And it was unbelievable. Eddie was beyond belief as far as a performer. You ask for something that hardly anybody knows. Not many people know about all that Eddie did for me. But he would call me at all times of night. 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd call me and say, I got an idea, essay. Always called me essay. We're in Japan. We'd wrestled the night before. And I'd wrestled in Japan. And, back then they just called it stiff. Now it's called strong style and all these different stuff. But it was blood and guts over there. Wrestled Stan Hansen, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, tagged with Bob Orton Jr. I knew the style well. And when I got over there, I got in that style of Japan, that go, 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 that strong style. And the fans didn't quite understand because they'd been seeing me as JBL, and they had been conditioned now to be more like the American audiences with signs and reactions, which they didn't have when I was there in the early 90s. Eddie called me about 2 o'clock in the morning because we didn't get the reaction we wanted. And he said, I know what was wrong, S.A. He said, you weren't JBL. He said, you showed no fear. So the next night we wrestled again. And at one point I begged off and the crowd went crazy. They booed. We got the reaction we wanted. And Eddie just smiled real big. He goes, we got him, S.A. He got the JBL character over. Without him, it'd have been a one-off at the Staples Center. And every time he called me, it was all about wanting to do something to get the JBL character over. It was never about him. He's one of the most unselfish guys I've ever met. I wish he was around today so we could sit and talk and FaceTime and BS like Ron and I do and reminisce about the old times. He was one of the best ever and one of the greatest guys ever. And Matthew, thank you very much for allowing me to share some stories about such a big part of my life, and that's Eddie Guerrero. Have a great and happy New Year. Hey Matthew, John Layfield here, JBL Wrestling God. Hey, I want to tell you thank you very much for asking me to look at that poem that you wrote and put on YouTube about Eddie Guerrero. I thought it was just fantastic. I actually watched it twice. I'm going to tweet it out just like you asked and put it out there because I think people need to see it. I see you got a bunch of views on it already. But I thought it was so well done about Eddie. It captured the essence of Eddie Guerrero. He meant so much to so many people. And your poem talked about all the different places he had been and all the different people that he had interacted with and influenced, the people that he influenced after his death. I wish nothing more than Eddie Guerrero was around right now because I would love to be able to sit around because we had so much fun sitting around in locker rooms and at meals, and we always would meet up with each other when we could. We wrestled against each other, so we had to kayfabe and couldn't be seen in public together that much, but we really enjoyed being around each other. He was the groomsman of my wedding. I got to do part of the eulogy of his funeral, which unfortunately came at way too early of a young age for Eddie. But I want to tell you thank you for that poem. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was incredibly well done. So congratulations. I appreciate it. Look for my Twitter. I'm going to put out a tweet to promote your poem because I think people need to see it. So, because I think it's that well done. Hope you have a wonderful day and a very happy New Year.
Hey, this is Chavo Guerrero Jr., and this message is for Matthew Cox again. What's going on, brother? Yeah, great video, man. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy anytime people do like a tribute to Eddie on that. It's really, really cool, man. I appreciate it very much. And viva la raza.
I just watched your video on YouTube. It was fantastic. Really touching. Very true. I don't disagree with anything you said. I don't think anybody would. I have a funny little story, kind of a cool story about Eddie that really touched me. It really affected me. We were riding together for a brief period of time, right up until we rode for about 4 weeks, up until the day that he died. And we were at a Bob Evans for breakfast one day. Bob Evans, if you're not familiar with it, is sort of like a Perkins. It's sort of a family restaurant where you just go in and they have good breakfasts. And it was a Sunday, so there was a really long line. There was probably 30, 40 people deep. They were all sitting around waiting for their seats. And the person that was working the front recognized us and immediately, hey guys, just come with me. I'll get you in right now. And Eddie just put on the brakes and he kind of corralled that guy over to the side, and very quietly he just said, "Hey man, these people have been here for, I don't know how long these people have been here, but they've been here for a long time. They're just as important as us. We'll wait our turn." And I just, that just really stuck with me. And Eddie treated people, he told that guy too, he was like, "Don't treat us differently because you see us on TV and you think we're," basically, don't treat anybody differently. So I thought that was really cool. And I think a testament to who Eddie really was as a person. He was a great guy, a locker room leader, obviously, and the world is a sadder place that he's gone, but also the fact that we still have all of his memories, and you have that many memories that you're able to put out a 4.5 minute long YouTube video and a poem. It's amazing. So thank you. I hope that's what you were looking for.
Well, this goes out to Matthew Cox. And I might say, Matthew, you are one super wrestling fan. Arn Anderson here saying thank you for what I just have been reading, the tribute to Eddie Guerrero. And man, you have got some contributors and you have got some firsthand knowledge yourself. The one thing I've figured out is we love the wrestling business, you, Eddie, and myself. It's a passion with all three of us. And you figured out pretty quickly the lie, cheat, steal thing and what a gimmick that was for Eddie Guerrero. It was one of his calling cards and one of the things that made that character so fun to watch. And he really went out and busted his butt every time he stepped through a set of ropes. One special story that I have about Eddie is my first time in Japan. I was at the curtain with a Japanese referee who was our liaison, and he kind of went between the American boys and the Japanese boys and passed information and all that. His name was Hattori. And I'm watching this guy out there with the mask on. They called Black Cat, Black Tiger, one of the above. And he was just doing some incredible stuff. And he walks up beside me. I looked at him, he looked at me, and he went, "Eddie's special." That said it all. And that did it for me for the entire time I knew Eddie Guerrero. I always saw he was special. So thank you, Matthew. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Whole bottle of X. Thanks for letting me be part of this.
Hey Matthew, it's Jim Cornette here, and you know why I'm here, because you booked this cameo message for yourself, and I appreciate that very much, and you wanted me to check out your YouTube channel where you've got the poem that you've done for Eddie Guerrero up, which I did, and I must say that you did a great job. As Mama Cornette used to say, you're a poet and don't know it, but your feet show it because they're Longfellows. But anyway, I digress. The point is, you're a big fan of Eddie Guerrero's, as so many of us were, and the whole Guerrero family for that matter. And I appreciate the heartfelt sentiment that you put in that poem and the opportunity you had to read it and let other people know how much you loved and appreciated Eddie's work and his talent. And I got to be honest with you, Eddie being the youngest of the Guerreros, I didn't get a chance to work with him except only a few times in the early 2000s. I was already back in OVW when he joined the WWF, but Eddie came down not only to Ohio Valley Wrestling, but also to Heartland Wrestling Association in Cincinnati, Les Thatcher's promotion, a couple of times when he was getting back in shape and getting ready for another run in the WWF. And he was the most generous and most giving guy. He understood wrestling. He grew up around wrestling. It was in his family. His father, Gory, was a legend in Mexico. And then his older brothers, Hector and Chavo and Mondo, became wrestlers before he did. But a lot of people who had been around the business for a long time and who knew everybody, they pretty much universally considered that Eddie was the best of the bunch in the ring. And that includes also Chavo Jr., who followed in his father's footsteps, Chavo Sr., who followed in his footsteps, Gory's. So you got generations of the Guerreros that were involved in wrestling. They settled in El Paso, Texas, and Gory was the promoter there for many years. I actually worked for Gory Guerrero on an event in El Paso back in 1985. But Eddie was, he was a great guy, even though I didn't get a chance to spend too much time around him. As I mentioned, he was very giving and very anxious to help the young guys learn, because that's the way that he did. That's the way that he was brought up, by having the older veterans give him the benefit of their knowledge and show him the way. And he was certainly more than willing to do that for everybody in return. So we lost him too soon, but Eddie was a tremendous human being, a great wrestler. And as long as he's got fans like you, he'll never be forgotten. So Matthew, I appreciate you give me the opportunity to see your poem and booking this cameo. And I hope you have not only a great Valentine's Day, since that's the season, but also stay safe, stay healthy, and keep supporting the Guerreros.
Matthew Cox, it is Vince Russo, and I just had the honor and privilege and pleasure of watching your YouTube video, Eddie Guerrero, forever and always. And Matthew, I got to tell you, man, you did a great, great job. I could tell you put a lot of time and effort and thought into those words. I could feel the emotion, bro. Eddie would have loved it. I could tell you that without a doubt. As a guy that worked with Eddie, I know he would have been touched, because Eddie was really a stand-up human being. Eddie was the only professional wrestler who called me to tell me he had a problem, he had an issue, and he needed to take time off to take care of himself. I had so much respect for Eddie after that. Nobody does that, bro. A lot of people dealing with demons and addictions, what they do is they deny it. But Eddie came forward and said, Vince, I need some time off. I need some help. I've got to take care of myself, for my wife and my family, and I will never, ever forget that. And Matthew, you did one hell of a job in capturing the essence of Eddie Guerrero. I only wish that Eddie could have seen that video. Matthew, bro, great job. God bless you, my friend.
So what's up, man? How you doing, Matthew? Appreciate you. Yeah, man, I love it when you send those tributes out. Eddie was a great dude, great video. His first one was good too, but this one is even better. But yeah, man, what a tribute. You're an awesome guy, man. You keep doing that, and wish there was more fans like you out there like that to do those videos. So you're a special person, man, special guy. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless, man. Take care.
What's going on, Matthew? And thank you for booking me for this cameo today, and a Merry Christmas to you. I did take the opportunity to check out your tribute video to Eddie Guerrero, and I thought it was beautiful. It was really fun kind of hearing you go through all the different memories you have and all the different facts you know about him. And it kind of reminds me a lot of kind of how I grew up looking up to and idolizing Shawn Michaels. So definitely relate to you on that. And yeah, I mean, from my experience, I didn't get to share the locker room too much with Eddie. I was on Raw, he was on SmackDown, and it was, pretty early on into my career with WWE where we unfortunately lost him. But from my experience, he was definitely one of the more, or probably the most kind of sweet and genuine guys I encountered in the locker room. Very much a gentleman, very much a godly person, as we all know. And one of the things that sticks out to me about Eddie, and it always, it's obviously kind of upsetting for me that I never really got a chance to work him. And he's obviously one of the greatest of all time. And we did do the Raw versus SmackDown match in Survivor Series 2005, and from what I understood, originally it was supposed to be Eddie Guerrero captaining that SmackDown team. It obviously ended up being Randy eventually, but it was supposed to be Eddie. And I always just think about what that match would have looked like if it was, Team Raw led by the Heartbreak Kid and with all of us against Team SmackDown, Team Blue, led by Eddie Guerrero. So the match turned out well as it was, but it would have been very cool. Just from the wrestling fan in me, would have loved to see two of the GOATs of our business tie up and share the ring together and work together in what would have probably eventually turned into a HBK Eddie Guerrero WrestleMania match, which would have probably been maybe one of the best ever. So anyways, once again, Matthew, man, thank you for booking me. Merry Christmas, man, and definitely appreciate the fact that pro wrestling has such passionate fans like you. So take care, brother, and until next time.
Hey Matthew, it's WWE Hall of Famer Lita, and I just wanted to share my memories about Eddie Guerrero and also just tell you how great I think it is that you are keeping his memory alive and wrote your poem about him. I know that Eddie would have appreciated that so much. So you're going on about his lie, cheat, steal, and he can be so tough in the ring. And a memory that I have, Eddie just truly, he was such a caring person. And it made me think about if he could see you reading your poem, how much he would just genuinely and truly love and appreciate it, because he cares so much about those around him. He cared so much about his fans. And so one memory that I had specifically, we were working, me and S.A. Rios with China and Eddie Guerrero, and I wanted Eddie Guerrero to powerbomb me onto the floor. I was going to jump off the top ring, from the top rope down onto the ground to do a hurricanrana. He was going to catch me and powerbomb me. And Eddie was so insistent. He was like, no, it's going to hurt you. I cannot hurt you. I can't do that to you. Over and over again. And I insisted that he did that to me. And he did. And it hurt me. He was right. And I knew that he would feel so bad that he had hurt me, and I did not want him to know. And so he didn't know for a couple days, and I was trying not to let him know. And when he saw that he had hurt me, he just, like, the care he had for me and just feeling so bad for me, he extended to his fans as well. So when I was watching your poem, all I thought was, Eddie would not only love the tribute so much, but just love that you've taken the time to talk about your memories and his career highlights. So thank you for doing that. And I am happy to share my memories with Eddie. We will never forget him. He's such a special, charismatic performer that I was so lucky to have been able to know and share time with.
Eddie was amazing. So professional. I remember we did that shower scene and I was really kind of, what are we doing? What are we doing here? He was so respectful. I'll be honest with you. I was really intimidated by him because he was such a professional and I was so green, meaning new in the business, but him and Chavo just paved the way, the Latino heat. And, I love Vicky Guerrero. The whole Guerrero family is just outstanding. What a legendary family. Eddie was just, oh my gosh. I was so blessed to be able to work with him. But thank you so much. Lots of love and have a happy new year.
Hey Matthew, this is Scotty Too Hottie, dude. And I just watched your video of your poem, Eddie Guerrero, Forever and Always. And dude, it was awesome. And I wasn't super close with Eddie, but I think I knew him well enough to know that he would have loved that. And it was really cool. And you're right, he did steal everybody's hearts, including mine. And he was one of the most genuine wrestlers I ever met, one of the most genuine wrestlers that I was ever in the ring with. And you're right, if you lined him up, he would also be a hero of mine. He was just a good dude to be around. And I can still hear his laugh today. all these years later. And I was fortunate enough to actually wrestle Eddie at WrestleMania 2000, myself and China and Grandmaster Sexy against Eddie and Dean and Perry Saturn. So what a cool memory that is for me, to be able to wrestle who I consider to be one of the best of all time, no doubt. Entertaining, like very few are. Such a great technician in the ring, and like I said, just such a great, genuine human to be around. A quick story: I rode with Eddie a few times out on the road, and this was in Dallas, Texas. He was world champion at the time, and we were leaving the arena, and there was a car accident just a few miles down the road on the highway, and traffic was kind of stopped, and none of the emergency vehicles were there yet or anything, and a couple people had stopped, but most people were just driving by, and Eddie was driving, and he immediately pulled over and jumped out of the car, ran out onto the highway to make sure everybody was okay. And I think that says a lot about who Eddie was and what a great human he was. So again, Matthew, great poem. I enjoyed it. My kids actually watched it too, so they enjoyed it. So keep up the great work, dude, and hopefully I'll get to meet you in person down the road.
Hello, Matthew. This is Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior, and I listened to your poem, The Memory of Eddie Guerrero. What was it, Forever and Always poem? You're asking me what my favorite part or what I thought about it, if I want to break it down, but I'm just going to tell you what I did like about it and love about it. I loved everything about it, don't get me wrong, but it was your passion. Obviously, you're a huge Eddie Guerrero fan and a fan of a lot of the Attitude Era times, like Benoit and all of them you mentioned, but of Eddie Guerrero and particularly, being this is an Eddie Guerrero Forever and Always poem. It was just, I loved it. It came from your heart. You took your time, you read it out, and you're truly a fan. So to run across fans like you are very rare in this day and time. So thank you for that. As a story of Eddie Guerrero, all I can tell you is I traveled with him and Chris Benoit for like almost a year. And they were day in and day out. There's one time I was fighting with Luna, and Eddie said he was going to handle the situation for me. Got on the phone with her, and then he ended up fighting with Luna. And he gets off there and he goes, "Man, that's one crazy hombre," whatever he said, something in Spanish. Yeah, but I don't know, man. It's just a brief story. I could give you so many stories, but I don't have time to do that. No disrespect to you. I'm just in the studio, so I want to tell you, good job, man. Cheers, ta-da, and take care and keep banging and banging. This is Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior.
What's up, Matthew? It's the Outcast, Shannon Moore. Man, anybody that's keeping the memory and the legacy of Eddie Guerrero alive is definitely a friend of mine. Eddie, I considered him a good friend of mine, and I also just, can't express enough how Eddie impacted me from an in-ring standpoint. Watching him and watching him perform the art of pro wrestling, he was incredible. And then just outside of the ring, like just our friendship, like I always will cherish that, especially a conversation that we had just about some stuff that I was going through. We were on a plane together, and Eddie, man, he gave me some great advice that day, and just, that conversation was a very spiritual conversation that I always cherish. But yeah, man, keep doing it. Let's keep the legacy of Eddie Guerrero alive, and I hope all is well with you, my friend, and I will see you at some point down the road. Peace.
Matthew, better late than never, but Eddie Guerrero taught me a lot in the ring. Shelton and I learned a tremendous amount from Eddie and Chavo of the Guerrero legacy. So he's missed. I loved him like a brother, and I'd give anything just to be in the ring with him one more time, or just to be able to have that conversation with him and ask him how life is, and I miss him. I miss him. Long live Eddie Guerrero. Amen.
Hey, Matthew, this is your boy Stevie Ray, man. Just getting in, taking care of a few things today, but hey, man, I appreciate you reaching out about Eddie Guerrero, man. I heard your poem and everything like that, man. Sensational. But you want me to tell a Eddie Guerrero story? Okay, let me think of one. I remember one time Eddie and I hanging out in a club in Germany. and I met this girl from Spain, but she couldn't speak English, so I needed Eddie to translate for me. So as I'm telling Ellie what to say to her, so I'm trying to push up on her, then I'm like saying to myself, is Eddie really saying what I wanted him to say, or is he saying what he wanted to say? Because I didn't get nowhere with her. So I don't know if he ripped me or not. But he always said, no, man, I was saying what you saying. I don't know, man. But that was my boy Eddie, man. And, God rest his soul, man. He was a good dude, man. Him and his whole family, man, were really cool with me and my brother. So, hey, I hope that was a good one for you. But, hey, man, keep up the good work and let's keep his name alive. Peace.
Matthew, it's the one-legged wonder, Zach Gowen. Hello, thank you so much for the cameo request, man. Normally they're birthday celebrations, shout out, achievements, things of that nature, motivational sometimes. But when I saw yours about Eddie, I smiled really, really big, man. And I really loved your poem that you uploaded to YouTube about a year ago. I wish we had more fans like you. Not even of individual wrestlers, but of wrestling in general. Fans that are passionate, fans that want to express themselves and get creative. And I think that's awesome, man. It was a pleasure watching that and thinking about Eddie, who was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, because I was a huge WCW fan, and so to watch him, and then when they jumped to WWF in 2000, man, February of 2000, and with the Radicals, and then Eddie broke his elbow. I think that was in Detroit, where I'm from, on their second appearance, doing a frog splash off the top, and then of course, him getting released, and then he was on the Indies for like a year, just rebuilding his reputation, and putting in that work to be able to get another opportunity. And then when he got it, and then of course when he beat Brock, just nothing short of inspirational. And I mean this when I say he's one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life. Just kind. Like the word kind comes to mind when I think of Eddie Guerrero. Not wrestling notwithstanding, just in everyday life, you don't meet people who are truly kind, and that's what Eddie was. I had the privilege of, when I was on SmackDown, of driving him around. I was basically his young boy. So I would pick him up from the airport, take him to the gym. We'd get a workout in, and then we go to eat, and then from there we would go to the arena, wrestle, and I'd take him to his hotel, and I'd drive him the next day. And I did that with Eddie, and I did that with Benoit as well. But I remember one particular time. We worked out, and then, excuse me, I've never seen anybody work out as hard as Eddie Guerrero either, now that I'm thinking about. I remember watching him in the gym just being like, what the hell, man? Like, he was an absolute animal. But then we went to the Olive Garden, and I don't know if you have the Olive Garden over there, but the Olive Garden's an Italian chain restaurant here in the States. And we just had this beautiful, almost like father-son conversation, because I was, 19, 20 years old at the time, and I never knew my father growing up. I haven't seen my dad since I was 4 years old. And so anytime there's like some sort of mentorship with an older man, it can get a little bit uncomfortable for me. At that time, dealing with the resentment that I had with my father. But Eddie made me feel so comfortable and warm and We had like a beautiful, trusting, open conversation. And that's not something that he had to do. You know, I was just there to kind of chauffeur him around and get him to where he needed to be. But the fact that he took time out of his life, I always judge people by what they do when they don't have to do it. You know, it's like if you pay someone to show up at a charity event and they're awesome, which is great. You know, they completed their obligation. But I want to know if they're attending charity events, you know, that aren't publicized and they're not getting paid for it. That sort of thing. And Eddie was one of those people, you know. Hulk Hogan, too. He was super kind to me when he didn't have to be. And I'll always be grateful for that. But Eddie especially. And especially that conversation we had at the Olive Garden, man. We got really deep and heavy. And for the first time, I think, in my life, I really opened up to somebody on a real level that I never have before. And he made that safe for me, you know. And that's something he didn't have to do, and it helped me out a lot, man. And I miss him very much. Not just a performer, because in my head he's top 5 of all time for sure, easily. You know, as an in-ring performer, like he was so special. But as a human being, you know, we need more people like Eddie out in the world, and that's what I try to, you know, that's what I try to do in my job and my career and in my family and my community, to carry his spirit. And he is missed very much. I got to meet his wife, Vicky, for the first time last year at a wrestling convention, and she had the same spirit, you know, like just the warmest, kindest person, man. You know, you just instantly feel comfortable and loved, you know, when you're in their presence. And you know, he's missed. So thank you for this request, because it made me kind of reflect back, which is important, and something we all should do sometimes, you know. But I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thanks for all you do as a fan, and keep getting creative and keep expressing yourself, and we'll keep the name and the memory alive forever. All right, buddy. Love you. Bye.
Hey Matthew, it's Mark Merrow. I just watched your video on Eddie Guerrero, and I tell you, it is beautiful. What a tribute to an amazing person. Not just a wrestler, not just a great wrestler, but amazing person. You know, I wrestled with Eddie, and he was one of the nicest guys, funniest. Everyone in the locker room loved him. And what was so cool about Eddie, and I think you're going to really appreciate this, is that he used to come and get me. We'd pray together before our matches. I have no doubt where Eddie is right now. And when you mentioned it, that he is in heaven. And one day we're going to all be able to see him again. And there's going to be a celebration in heaven that will never end. What a reunion that's going to be someday. But I can't thank you enough for remembering Eddie and putting in such great words, the memories of Eddie, and the silly things he would do, and the great things he'd come up with. You know, who would ever think, you know, that Eddie would beat Brock Lesnar and win the belt? I mean, it's just incredible, the things he accomplished and did in his life. I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Shout out to my man, Matthew. This comes from Matthew himself. It's for our hero, Eddie Guerrero. The memory and legacy and the tribute. Man, I couldn't be more involved in that. Eddie Guerrero may be one of the finest men I've ever known in my entire life, and absolutely one of the top 20 performers of all time. I hope you write this well. I hope you make it as serious and talk to everyone that ever knew him, especially Vicky. He's the greatest guy I've ever known. I mean, right there with the top 5 guys I've ever even hung around with, worked with for sure, had a drink with for sure, shared stories with, rode him down the highway with. Tremendous man. You take care of his legacy, pay a great tribute to him. Matthew, you're the man today, right now, because the Nature Boy said so.
You keep styling and profiling, brother. Love you. Much respect. Woo!
Leave it up to the fans, man. Yeah, every now and then one of you fans come up with a real gem, and you certainly put one out, man, whenever you did the Eddie Guerrero Forever and Always poem. You know, it's still hard to believe that, you know. As the older you get, the more they leave you, you try to make sense out of it, and it doesn't make sense. You know, why Eddie had to leave so soon. I just don't get it. I mean, it's a damn shame that it happened. You know, I was sitting there trying to think of a memory, an unheard of memory. Well, if it's unheard of, it never happened. Well, maybe, I don't know. Well, about the only thing I can think of is I was in Florida way back in the day, and Eddie had came through with his father, and he was wrestling. The father was wrestling, and Eddie was, I think, 15, and a couple of guys got together and put out a hit list on him. Yeah, we cornered several girls and said, whichever one of you takes his virginity, you know, we'll give you $100. You know, Jesus Christ, they all, just the first one though. Okay, you got it? Yeah, because they were all ready to jump his bones, man. He was a good-looking young man, and a fair man, and a good man, and sweet. That's why you just don't understand why they had to leave so soon. But enough of the down. Let's get back up. Just know that he's looking down now and probably wants to punch me right in my gullet for telling you what I told you, but it happens. Just have a great New Year, man, and you know, how come I didn't get a poem? Oh, because I'm not dead. Okay, I got you. All right, I'll wait. For a long time, I hope. Take care, man.